Welcome to episode 1 of my positional concept series, and today we will be focusing on doubled pawns. So first of all, what are doubled pawns and how do you get them in a real game? So, doubled pawns are two pawns of the same color that occupy one file. They're often seen as weaknesses because they cannot defend each other. This makes them very vulnerable and much more weak than the normal pawn. In order to get doubled pawns, you have to make a trade on the board. So, in the Roy Lopez opening, which is a very common opening for white to go into, after we play like bishop b5, and if black decides to play a move like d6, we can now take this knight, and now black is forced to capture back with this b pawn, and as you see here, black has these doubled pawns, and that is how either color can receive doubled pawns. It has to be through a trade. Alright, so in this example position I've set up, we see that white has a doubled c-pawn that is currently attacked by this dark squared bishop. So in this position, we actually cannot defend this pawn. If we try to push it to get it out of the bishop's sight, we actually end up just blundering our rook, so that clearly doesn't work. And if we try a move like rook to d3, black can just capture. And then once we capture back, black can just take this pawn, and then after like rook to c1, we can go here. And that is a way that you can kind of take advantage of the doubled pawns, because they are oftentimes a big time weakness for the color that has them. So kind of a rule of thumb to keep is just try to consistently attack doubled pawns on the board. Alright, so in the second example with the king and pawn endgame, black has the doubled pawns, and white is totally winning here, because after a move like king to f3, black cannot come to f6 because this pawn is blocking the king. Also, them having doubled pawns makes this h pawn extremely weak, which we're going to target with our king. If they try to centralize their king, that does not work, because now we can just continue to walk our king up to the h pawn, which is totally helpless. And then black can try and capture these pawns, so we're going to promote this pawn way before they promote any of these pawns. So in here, white is totally winning. If black tries to play a move like f5, we can just play f4. This move completely shuts down all of black's moves. Black's going to have to play a move like king to f6 or something, and now these two pawns are tied up. Black has way more to do, and this pawn is going to hang eventually because black's going to have to move their king. So in this position, having the doubled pawns is terrible for black. Alright, so in this endgame position, white is up 2 pawns, but it's a complete draw because the pawns are doubled and on the edge of the board. So, if white plays a move like king to b5, black can just copy. If you push up to a5, black can now just fall back. So, if you try and copy black's moves, this won't get you anywhere because black's king is too far advanced, and once it's got into the corner, it's pretty much just a draw. You cannot do anything here because black is just going to hug this corner, and also having this pawn does absolutely nothing, because even if you try and push it up, the result is going to stay the same, and it's eventually going to have to be a draw. Now, if you didn't have doubled pawns, let's go back here real quick. In this position, if this pawn was like to b3, this would be a whole different story because these pawns occupy more area. So, once again, this is a position where doubled pawns are weighing you down tremendously. So, it may seem that doubled pawns are so bad and you want to avoid them completely at all costs, but sometimes they can serve a great purpose. So, this is a very common position in the Giocco piano. If white here decides to play a move like bishop to e3, giving up the doubled pawn if black were to capture, and here, if black actually does capture, this really helps white. Sure, they have the doubled pawns, but this is very helpful because it opens up their rook, and it gives them an extra center pawn, which can allow for them to push this d4 pawn and get a very nice center. So doubled pawns can also serve great purpose sometimes. Another example in this position, if black decides to drop their bishop back to b6, which is another great option, and if white decides to capture, once again, black is also taking the doubled pawns, but in return, you do get an open file rook. So doubled pawns are not always bad. They can be very great sometimes. Just know when to go for them and know when they're useful in your position. Alright, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.